So in number 13, we've got a special right triangle. This happens to be a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. And with that being the case, there's two equations that compare the lengths of the side within the triangles that we could possibly use. And the first one is this. We know that the hypotenuse in this kind of triangle is the same distance as the short side times 2. And we also know that the long leg of this triangle is the same as the short side times the square root of 3. So we can use either of those equations, but it's kind of going to depend on which information we have, because I'm looking for two different things. I'm trying to find both n and m, which is the short side and the long side. So we'd have a problem if we try to start by using that bottom equation, because we don't have a value for the long side or the short side. So if we use that, we'd be setting up an equation that ends up having two variables in it, and I wouldn't be able to solve for either one of them. So instead, we're going to start by using this equation. I'm going to rewrite it over here so we have some room. The hypotenuse is going to be the short side times 2. The reason I'm going to start with that is because I know what the hypotenuse is. Okay, so when I plug in 7 for my hypotenuse here, I'm only going to have one variable, the short side, which in this case is n, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. That'll allow me to solve for that short side of n. When I do that, since I'm multiplying this by 2, to undo that I'm going to divide by 2, and I would do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so those cancel. I'm left with n. N equals 7/2, or if you want to call it 3.5, that would be fine. Okay, so I've found one of my sides. Now, in order to find the long side here, which is labeled as m, now I can go back and use this equation on the bottom, because now I have enough information to make use of it. The long side is the same as the short side times the square root of 3. Okay, so I still don't know what that long side is. That's this one, that's m, that I'm trying to solve for. But I now know the short side is 7/2. And I'm going to multiply that 7/2 by the square root of 3. Okay, so m equals really 7 times the square root of 3 all divided by 2. And although that's not a real nice number to work with, and I could plug that in my calculator for an approximation, that is the most simplified radical form of m. So now we've been able to use both equations to solve for both of the missing sides.